Andrew Holness, indeed colleague Minister Robert Morgan, the Conservator of Forests, Ainsley Henry, indeed senior members of staff of the Forestry Department, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, NEPA, OPM, and of course our private sector partners from Stewart Industrial, members of the NGO community, certainly I acknowledge Ms. Teresa Moody from JET, and we welcome all to this important afternoon. Now behind you is a very important commitment made, commitment kept. It was a commitment based on an instruction from the Prime Minister to invest some $76 million in a tree relocator device. And persons will say, well, where does this fit in the broader scheme of what we have sought to do and sought to accomplish as it relates to our environmental protection and environmental restoration targets? Well, the first thing I'd like everyone listening to understand is that environmental restoration, environmental protection, regardless, isn't free. It comes at a cost of investment, certainly. On the capital side, it comes with recurrent expenditure for the sort of staff that monitor these areas. It also comes at opportunity cost, because invariably the discussion around sustainable development sometimes leaves out the value of what you leave behind, the value of what you protect. It is why there's ecosystems valuations that are being done now, is why that is a critical part of how we look at our development decisions. But the particular device behind us recognizes that Jamaica is indeed growing, and that Jamaica does need to continue to grow at a particular pace if it is to solve its poverty issues, if it is to ensure that its population can achieve their collective ambition, but it is important to achieve so in a sustainable way. Prime Minister, you'll recall the conversation we had about the expansion of particular corridors and how the streetscape was incredibly important if we were going to ensure that our citizens benefited not just from road expansion, but certainly benefited in such a way where we maintained as much tree cover as possible, and designs going forward took into consideration the need for particular green spaces. This instruction was given some 2 years ago, Prime Minister, and we've worked diligently to ensure we stuck to the procurement process and guidelines, and that we have delivered certainly within the term of government where this commitment was met. But there was one other element, Prime Minister. You'll recall when we presented the Red Plus survey ahead of your last budget, not the one just done last year's budget, where we highlighted to the country that Jamaica's forest cover has actually increased. It's not something that comes out in much of the discussion, but our forest cover has actually increased. Now, there are issues with quality of that forest cover in particular areas, and we're working to resolve those particular issues. But our commitment through our National Tree Planting Initiative to plant 3 million trees, through our newly issued 14 forestry orders, through our new protected areas in the Cockpit Country protected area and in the Black River protected area, has actually seen an increase in forest cover. Jamaicans should also note, Prime Minister, that through your instruction, we have now achieved some 25% of our terrestrial land being protected. And we will go further this year, Prime Minister. The Long Mountain Reserve will be formally declared this calendar year. We've also indicated, certainly in my sectoral, Prime Minister, that to preserve particular green spaces in our major urban centers and townships, we will be looking at particular areas that are suitable to be declared forest management areas. Prime Minister, we've completed the mapping exercise associated with the Constant Spring Golf Club, and will very soon hand you the document to sign to include Constant Spring Golf Club as one of our forest management areas. Now, what that will do, Prime Minister, is give you the sort of visibility for management of the development trajectory around this area without anyone going awry or anyone getting a little too ahead of themselves. But this is a critical part of how we intend to develop. In my sectoral, I highlighted a 20-point plan for Jamaica to sustain, for Jamaica to develop sustainably. This is one element of point 3, which is how we intend to manage our land use. And what you're going to see is that as we take our streetscapes more seriously, as we ensure that as we widen roads, we will ensure that we do the sort of assessments, Prime Minister, that you had directed for Lady Musgrave, East King's House, and indeed Arthur Wint. That assessment, Prime Minister, showed 214 trees, not that would be affected, but could be. Because of that, We did the assessment of what the carbon capture could be, what the sort of loss of tree cover could be. And we assessed that to be sure that we replenished and replaced, we would plant 1,500 trees. That's what the assessment was highlighted we need to do. Well, Prime Minister, as of today, we have planted 3,000 trees rather, within a kilometer of the sites where the roads will be expanded. So within a kilometer of all 3 roads, we have increased tree cover by some 3,000, and the survivability rate is above 90%, Prime Minister. So we know we're doing well in that regard. However, we're not saying all 200 trees will be affected. We said we don't know which ones will be affected at this stage. So we're also going to make the investment to make sure that the ones with the root structure that can be relocated, that stand to be affected, can be relocated. And this will be how we approach all major government developments. It will also be available to the private sector who are doing housing developments who wish to preserve trees with particular root structure. It is just another investment in Jamaica's march towards sustainable development. Now, a lot is made about old trees, new trees, different species of trees. But important to note, and one of the things I was recently reading from the Red Plus study, the importance for new tree planting, because many new species of trees actually capture carbon faster than older trees in the space. Now, no tree should go, but the reality is we're doing everything we can to protect our tree cover within our urban centers, to beautify our streetscapes, and to ensure that for government developments that we save every single tree that we can, while in areas of degradation, in areas of farmland no longer used, we're able to restore forest cover, plant much faster, and ensure we meet our 2030 goals. This is a good day. I want to thank the team from the Forestry Department. I want to thank their procurement team. I want to also thank those at the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation that drove this to the point of delivery. We look forward to seeing it in action. Thank you.
All right, let's keep those hands going as we welcome the the Honorable Most Prime Minister. I'm making a mockery of this. Sir, my apology. Thank you for your forgiveness.
Oh, Lord. Today is indeed a good day. I have a prepared text here with some good things in it, but I think most of the text would have already been said. So let me regale you with a story. In the 1990s, a well-loved politician who was then the Minister of Works, but became more popular as the Minister of Agriculture. His name was Roger Clark. There was some road expansion going on in Ligoni, the present roadworks that you see there with the separation and the island in the middle going up Hope Road. That was done by the then Minister of Works, Roger Clark, and that included expanding the road in front of where the post office was. And to do that expansion, it came into contention with a guango tree. This might be a little bit dated for some of us, but it is important to recall it. And unfortunately, that tree was cut down. I could have said it had to be cut down, but it's debatable. But it was cut down. And it created quite a stir. More than a stir, it was a real problem. It was a real issue. And many Jamaicans were upset by this, that this guango tree that would have been there for ages had to be cut down to make way for a road and a bus stop. It was a really big issue. I was not in politics at the time. I think I was maybe at university. And it was really a big issue. And it seared in my mind the importance of taking a broader look at this conflict between development and the environment. I consider myself a builder. I want to see development, particularly infrastructure development, but it can't be at the expense of our natural assets. So we can't see development as a trade-off between the built environment and the natural environment. So we have to figure out ways in which each reinforces the other. The built environment reinforces the natural environment, and we use the natural environment to reinforce and support the built environment. So, of course, 30 years later, when it now falls to me to make the decisions, and we are now on a very robust trajectory of expanding our road network and our road infrastructure, I gave some directions to the NWA and the Forestry Department that the technology has evolved to the point where we can use technology to resolve this conflict that would emerge ever so often as we widen existing roads, that we can move the trees and replant them, and they have a 90% success rate of surviving. So that instruction was given, and what we are here today marking in the ceremony is the acquisition of the capacity, there it is, to ensure that as we pursue the built environment, as we pursue the widening of our roads for our economic development and efficiency, we can also act as good stewards of our natural assets, our natural environment. So, why are we celebrating this? I hope I've put it into context to show you how far we have come as a country. That we now have not just the enlightened policy view, the enlightened policy approach to dealing with this issue, but we have the budget to do it. A point that is not always taken into consideration, that without the economy, as some people want to dismiss and say there's nothing happening in the economy, and you know, when you say to people how our economy is robust and resilient, they will tell you, oh, I still can't buy chicken. And that might be the case for some, but the perspective has to change. The perspective has to change, because for the average person who may still be struggling in the economy as it is, there is hope. Before, when the economy was doing terribly, there was no hope. Before, when the economy was doing terribly, we wouldn't even be considering that in the expansion of a road, we could now move the trees, preserve the environment, keep our city cooler, pursue our economic development while maintaining our environment. And in the same way, the economy is doing better. Yes, there might be some cost of living challenges now, but as your economic efficiency rises and your cities are not hot and miserable, your productivity increases, so too does your economic opportunities. Everything is connected, and therefore this administration takes an enlightened approach to policy, connecting everything. That this investment of 76 million Jamaican dollars, see that? Very impressive. 76 million Jamaican dollars. So for those who say the government doesn't care about the environment, the government isn't, that's not true. think on it very carefully. $76 million in this equipment that is going to ensure that as we now widen our roads, we can do two things. We can make our roads not only a corridor for traffic, and by the way, you would have heard me say that our roads, when we construct them, particularly our main road and our highways, they are not just a corridor for traffic. Our roads are now a corridor for utilities. So when we are constructing any road, it's the road, it's the water main, it's the connectivity for internet and broadband cables, it's the installation of road furniture, it's the installation of sidewalks and jersey barriers for safety, and it's the installation of sensors to make the roadway smart. So it's not just a corridor for traffic, it's a utility corridor, but we're adding one more dimension to it. It is now a corridor for trees. So all the roads that we're going to be doing now, we're going to ensure that we have reservations enough to have a cooling effect of trees being planted along our corridors. Now that cooling effect is good from an environmental standpoint, but I want you to consider when you drive along Holland Bamboo, granted the road is in not such a good state, but you get a certain serenity, a certain beauty, a certain calmness in going through that canopy of bamboos. Isn't there value in that? Now imagine going to work in a canopy of trees, some may be blossoming, some may have flowers, it's cooler, it's more beautiful. Imagine the value of that when you step into your workplace. Maybe you'll have co-workers who just erase that when you step in, but at least you will get there in a good frame of mind. And these are some of the values that you get by having enlightened policy that deals with not just the asphalt, not just the utilities under the asphalt, but deals with the lighter side, as we may call it, the aesthetics and the environment. And that's what we're trying to build in Jamaica. We're not trying to build a hard, square, concrete place. We're trying to build a more rounded kind of infrastructure where the human side is prioritized and catered to. Now, this piece of equipment will be resident at the forestry department. It probably will be the most expensive piece of equipment you have. And it will be used island-wide, not just in Kingston, because though it's acquired specifically to complement the road widening projects, but from time to time, you may need to relocate trees that, for a variety of reasons, that necessity may arise. So you have that capability now. So it's not just about planting new trees. And by the way, I'm very pleased in 2019, I had announced that we would do 3 million trees in 3 years. Well, we did it in 5, which is not too bad. We still did the 3 million trees. And there are many Jamaicans who may be wondering, I don't see those trees. You may not necessarily know that we planted them. So for example, if you were to come on the grounds here at Jamaica House, you wouldn't immediately know that all of these trees that you see, these ackee trees here, all of those trees that are down there, some very lovely trees are planted, and behind there, all of them are new trees that we planted along this corridor here of King's House and Lady Musgrave. We did some planting as well. And along the East-West Highway, Highway 2000, we planted 10,000 trees. Some pui trees are there. I'm looking forward to seeing them grow in the next 10 years and bloom, including some fruit trees as well were planted. So we have done significant tree planting, and I'm hopeful that Minister Samuda, you gave the directive to continue for another 3 million trees in 3 years. Hopefully we meet that target. All right, they correct me. 3 million trees in 5 years. But it's an ongoing exercise, right? And please don't take what I'm about to say any other way than what it is meant. It's an ongoing exercise to green Jamaica. So this is a big day for environmental enhancement, promotion and protection in Jamaica. It is indeed an achievement for the government. I doubt we will have this situation of having to cut down a guango tree. It may arise. It may be that the tree has died and you have to move it, or there might be issues where. But now the government is in a position where it can properly assess a tree and make a decision. And if the decision is this tree can be moved and it will be survived, then we have the capability to do it. So we are in a much better position as a country to protect our environment than we were before 30 years ago when we were confronted with this situation. So in many ways, Jamaica has changed, Jamaica has improved, and it is not only because of more enlightened policy direction, it is also because we have the fiscal space, the money from an economy that is doing fairly well, and we make the right decisions to enhance and protect our environment. Having said that, just to very quickly say that we have a program which we call CAPEX, and that program is underway. I announced that program in 2022, I believe. And that program involved the upgrade, widening, and some amount of realignment of certain critical roadways across Jamaica, in particular Kingston and in the soon-to-be parish of Portmore. And that would involve the widening and redevelopment of Arthur Wint Drive, Lady Musgrave Road, East King's House Road, Washington Boulevard, and then in Portmore, Grange Lane, the new Portmore entrance to Portmore, and Hellshire Road. Grange Lane is done. Grange Lane is almost finished, 98. I toured it recently, fantastic piece of work. So that project is done. The Hellshire Road should start shortly. It's starting this month. So the Hellshire Road will start this month. So that CAPEX project took a little while to get off the ground. But bear in mind that from the point of announcement to the point of execution, there is project development, procurement, contracting, and then contract execution. All kinds of things have to be done before we actually break ground and lay asphalt. So there are persons who would say, boy, it's just because election is coming, that's why we're doing all of this. Not recognizing that those days are gone. For these projects to have been done, your government would have been working years before. So what should you pay attention to? You should pay attention to the government making the announcement and then actually being able to make the delivery. I announced this in 2023. 2023, 2 years ago. It had to be procured. Well, before that, it had to be scoped as a necessary capital expenditure. We had to justify the expenditure through the public investment process. Then it had to be procured. These are not pieces of equipment sitting in a showroom somewhere. So we had to put out a public tender. JCB and Stewart's would have responded and would have won that public tender. Then they would have had to build the specs, and that takes some time, and then it would have to be delivered, and so here we are today. So the lesson from this that the Jamaican electorate should pay attention to is that your government has been working. We have not been sitting down twiddling our thumbs and then come to make promises that are empty. No, we have been working and we have been able to deliver because we have put in the work and we have taken an enlightened approach to policy making. And so today, another handing over of a significant piece of equipment, a significant expenditure that has substantially improved the capability of government, and that will add to the improvement in quality of life. So ladies and gentlemen, I urge you always to choose a greener Jamaica.
Thank you, Prime Minister. All right, so quickly, we are going to move to take some photographs. Following that, we will ask Honorable, Most Honorable, to commission the unit. So the keys are already inside. We're going to ask you if you are up to the task to climb inside, but you will be that is all we want. That is all we want. Mr. Pinto will guide you from Stewart's Industrial, and then we will follow to do the demonstration thereafter. So for the photo ops, please, Minister Samuda, Minister Morgan, Chief.
Don't touch anything.
I hear it. I hear it already. I feel it. Yeah. All right. I'm not touching anything. I'm accelerating. So.
Press gas PM.
So it's park. You're sure it's in park? All right.
Press gas PM. Press
No.
gas.
All right. Turn the key.
You ready to move it? Do we move it, PM?
Yes.
Hold on, wait. So let us get to that.
Come. I'm gonna hurt yourself, General.
Yes. Quite smooth. it's finger. You could just very nice. Very nice. Very nice. All right, I'd love to see a demo. Which tree you plant? Which tree in come which tree come from? Let's start.
Don't go in the rucksack. Go in the rucksack.
Come on.
Sir. Are you guys, can you come back a little bit? Just a little bit? Get it same way, get it same way.
First of all, you kill all the roots. By the time you put dirt, you thought, shoot up. Shoot, get the field. Look at that. By Jackson.
Can't go down no more. That's it. Yeah? Yeah, man.
So let me ask you, what's the lift up now?
Yeah, yeah.
like it grew up right here.